Hello and good evening to our very first English Stories movie. I'm Sarah.
I'm Tina.
And we're going to present 6 books tonight. And I think I am the kick-offer. Am I not?
Absolutely.
And I will start with a very, very nice book, obviously. It's Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. And this great author has written 2 other books. One is called Station 11 and the other one The Glass Hotel, so this is her 3rd one. And I only read it recently when I was visiting my sis in Ireland, so this is my Irish book, although the author is from Australia. And it's a lovely read. It's about various people in various times. And the first story starts in 1912. There's a young earl, an Englishman, who is kind of banned from home and has to go to Canada, to British Columbia. And he walks the woods there one time, and he looks up a particularly huge tree, and then he has a kind of weird, there's a kind of weird incident happening. He hears violin music and some noises that can only be described as hydraulic, and he absolutely doesn't know what that means, and his eyesight is, blurred, and then it's over. It only lasts like a few seconds, and then we jump in time in the book, and we're in the present time, and there is this young man who plays a concert in New York, and he is a violinist, and he shows a video. He does a kind of installation, and he shows a video recorded by a young woman who has the very same incident that this young earl had in 1912, but we are in 2018 or 19 right now. And then we do another jump into the year 2230, and there's a young author who lives on a moon colony, and she travels all the way down to Earth, which doesn't take that long in that time, to do a book tour throughout Europe. And so she does that. And in her book, she writes also about a pandemic that takes place. And then we jump another 200 years ahead, and there's this man whose sister is a very, very bright and successful young lady. She's a scientist, and he is only a hotel detective. Mm-hmm. But he gets a chance to become something very, very different, to become a kind of detective himself by time traveling, because he sees a connection, or some people see a connection between these incidents that happen regularly from time to time, like 1912 and 2018, then 2230. So he travels all the way back to investigate. And it's just beautiful, this book. It's really, really suspenseful. Mm-hmm. It's beautifully written. There's so much timeliness in it. I mean, there's the pandemic. Mm-hmm. The author has written it during the pandemic. I thought it really, really moving, and also quite lyrical how she writes about it. And the ending, whew, so surprising. I was really, really, really caught off guard. I couldn't believe it. It's really beautiful, and it's not out in German yet, so you definitely be the first to read it. Sea of Tranquility by wonderful Emily St. John Mandel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Sounds amazing.
It is amazing.
I know we always say that after every book that the other
really
talks about, but it does sound amazing.
Yeah.
We'll jump to 2019 now, I believe, 2019. the first novel by Emily Pine, Ruth and Penn. Emily Pine, which is why I've got it here, is very well known and much loved for her columns or her essays, Notes to Self. And I'm sure that some readers of this book will actually recognise a few of Emily Pine's subjects in her novel. What's it about? Ruth and Penn, two females, on one day in Dublin. The whole book takes place in this one day, so very different to yours. Yeah, lovely in Dublin. Yeah. You have this span of hundreds of years, and we have, I think it starts at 6:15 in the morning and ends just on the next day at 1:15 a.m. again, so in the middle of the night, or late night, or late evening. Ruth and Penn couldn't be more different. Ruth is a psychologist. She works as a counsellor. She has clients whom she tries to navigate through their lives. She is approaching middle age herself. She's married to Aidan, and it's her that we encounter first early in the morning on this day in, I did write it down somewhere. It's the 7th of October in 2019 in Dublin. And she wakes up, and Emily Pine has us right straight up close and personal to both of these women in this book. I don't want to tell you too much, which is always the problem when you want people to read a book that you've read with passion yourself. You know, you can get carried away, so that's just why I'm sort of hesitating right now. Ruth's marriage is on the rocks, I can tell you that much, and there's one huge subject between her husband and herself, and she has to find out herself whether this one question, how they can answer that. Herself personally, and also her husband for himself, and the two of them as a couple. And it really is the big question, this is not spoiling too much, is life without children worth living? Which is, a question.
Absolutely.
And as Ruth works her way through the day, seeing her clients and walking around Dublin, there is a chance encounter with Penn, although that happens sort of by the way. The next chapter is Penn, who is a young teenager, I think she's 15, who is autistic. She's highly sensitive, and she wakes up on this day wanting to go to the Extinction Rebellion march, which takes place in Dublin that day, or which is about to take place. And her mother Claire is worried about her because she knows that is quite something. It could overwhelm her. Penn wakes up, and the first thing she wants to do is to check Instagram, which is fairly normal for a 15-year-old, I guess. But she immediately feels crushed by the guilt of the carbon emissions she's causing just by looking at her Instagram posts. So Penn has an awful lot on her mind all the time, really.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to meet her best friend Alice, and she's really looking forward to the whole day. And I guess that's all I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh no!
Both women are challenged. Both women face their own demons. And as in Notes to Self, Emily Pine goes right up. Like I said, she goes right up close and personal. And I learnt an awful lot about various subjects in this book. It made me feel compassionate towards both women, and it widened my horizon, I'd like to say. And I hope that Emily Pine will continue to write fiction. Her non-fiction was fantastic, and I was so delighted to find that she'd written a novel, and I really hope that she carries on writing, because I think this is a writer to watch. Wow. And so I'd like to recommend Ruth and Penn today.
Sounds great.
Dublin.
Sounds like a book I'd love.
Anything in Dublin.
Yeah.
No, it really is great. Thank you.
So is it time for a sip of G&T?
Oh, there's always time for a sip of G&T.
Cheers.
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 And cheers to Christopher.
Yeah.
Behind the camera.
The man behind the camera.
I wonder how popular that is, watching people drink.
Oh yeah.
Probably not so much. We hope you've got a drink too.
So shall I continue?
Please do.
Okay, so this is a book that's really, really hard to talk about, but I just have to talk about it nevertheless. Pure Color by Sheila Heti, an author which I really love. The last book I've read by her is Motherhood, also as in Ruth and Penn, about the question, does one need a child to be not only happy in life, but also to have value in life and purpose. So she doesn't have a child. Pure Color. It's about a lot of things. It's not really a thick book. Okay, let me try to get this straight. So it all starts when God paints like a draft of the world. Then he steps back from his canvas and looks at it. And that is the moment we're living in. Okay? So, when he steps back, he or she or whoever, God, from the canvas, looking at what he or she done so far, painted so far. And then the premise is that there are three types of people on this planet. There are the birds with the view from above, the fish who are, who always think for the collective and not only as they have a really small ego. And then there are the bears. The bears are the hot lovers. They, if you get close to a bear, he or she won't give you up again. So these are the three types. Anyway, there's this young woman. She's quite young when we meet her, Myra, and she's studying to be an art critic. And so she's in university, and she tries to find out what's important for her in life. And she meets various people. She meets Annie, for instance. She knows immediately Annie has to be a fish, while Myra is more of a bird. And she always tries to find art in her life, and always tries to find meaning in art, therefore meaning in life. And she has a very close relationship to her father, who is unfortunately very ill. And it's a heartbreaking scene when they kind of say goodbye, and her father passes away. And then it gets a bit adventurous, because they meet again in a leaf.
In a leaf?
In a leaf, as in a leaf of a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Myra experiences a kind of osmosis also. I know it really sounds crazy, guys, but it is one of the most beautiful things I've read in some time, really. And then she eventually comes out of the leaf again. So this is all some kind of greater experience. And of course, you can read it as, oh no, she turned into a leaf, or you can obviously read it as a metaphor, just it's your decision to make. I'm not so sure how I read this, but I know that it's profound. It's really profound. It's about life itself, meaning, one's purpose in life. It's about relationships, and it's about family, about children's guilt towards their parents. It's really interesting on so many levels. I love this book. I only finished it, I have to say, this morning, crying. Just in time. Read it. Pure Color. It's such a pure read. It's so profound. So, Tina, you were asking a real good question just now. The form.
The form of it. Yeah, exactly.
So it's divided in chapters, quite small ones, where you have only like 5 to 10 sentences on one page, and then longer ones. It is, I would say, it is like an essay style. Yeah, definitely. But it's you know, you see the thread, the
Throughout the book.
Yeah, throughout the book. Yeah.
I'm tempted to read it, I have to say.
You would love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, you would love it.
Okay.
I'm sure.
On my TBR list, as one says these days. To be read.
TBR list it is. Wow, okay. Thanks.
Trying to get in there with the kids.
Yeah, so pure colour.
Thank you.
What was that?
Right, and we jump to Australia.
Oh yeah.
You had an Australian author before.
Yeah.
And I have an Australian author now, and it's set in Melbourne. Again, the time setting is interesting because you've had this span of hundreds of years. Then Emily Pine in Ruth and Penn had approximately 24 hours, and in this book we have the entirety of a play.
Oh wow, okay. Like a theatre, like in the theatre.
That's right.
Okay.
They're in a theatre in Melbourne, and it focuses on 3 different women, or the book. We're in a theatre in Melbourne, and the play that's being shown is Samuel Beckett, Happy Days.
Oh, I don't know that one.
The play is a 2-act play, which she uses with the intermission. Happy Days is about a couple. I don't want to talk about the Samuel Beckett play all evening. It's worth looking into. Winnie is on stage up to her waist in mud. As the play progresses, she's up to her neck in mud. And Winnie, with all of her problems about aging and about communication and where life is taking her, with Willie, who's in the background, is the backdrop, really, for these 3 women in our theatre setting today.
Okay.
I say today, the thing is, it's actually in Melbourne whilst the bushfires raging and ravaging
Oh yeah.
outside.
Like 2 years ago, or last year, when was it? 2 years ago, I think.
That's it, I think it was 2 years ago.
Gosh,
And they're in the theatre whilst the world outside is literally burning. Whilst animals, people, you know, we remember the catastrophe. And the thing is, in the theatre, it is chilled down. I actually felt the cold because the air conditioning is so fierce that it's really, really cold, which is a great contrast that she uses.
Oh, wow, yeah.
They're shivering, they're really cold, thinking, oh, I should have put a shawl around my shoulders, I shouldn't just be wearing my summer dress. And outside, the bushfires are completely out of control. There are 3 women. We have Margot, who is an ageing literature professor with an ill husband. We have Ivy, who is battling maternal grief whilst trying to enjoy new motherhood. She's very, very wealthy. And then we have Summer, who is a young usher who works at this theatre, who's worried about her girlfriend who is out there somewhere whilst these fires are burning out of control. And these 3 women have the narrative. It's their lives, their thoughts that we're experiencing and witnessing throughout the play. And every time the bell rings on the stage in this Samuel Beckett play, something is brought to head in the present day in the theatre. I loved it. It was so different. Wow. I feel drawn now to read Samuel Beckett.
Oh yes.
I saw that play many, many years ago in Hamburg at the Schauspielhaus.
Oh wow.
But a long, long time ago, like we're really talking decades ago.
Yeah.
And I remembered it because I remember this woman up to her neck in something. She couldn't move. She could only move her head in the end. And to use that as an image for what is happening to these 3 women in their thoughts, I found very new, very different.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. It's a great read. It's come out in German too. It's been published, and it's called Die Feuer, which I also thought was interesting.
Because I was just thinking, also with the title, the performance, I was thinking, is it a kind of performance in the performance, like?
Yeah, I mean, the performance could be the Samuel Beckett.
Or the 3 women.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we are kind of audience as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
that's it.
Oh, great.
They're watching Samuel Beckett and we're watching them.
Oh, wow.
And
Sounds-
outside, the
Sounds
fires.
brilliant.
Yeah, it's-
Also with the symbolism.
Absolutely,
Wow.
yeah. So it's, whatever language you choose to read it in, it's well worth a read.
Wow. Sounds great.
And we're going to present Christopher to you now. Christopher's going to come and present you a book, which for our English Stories regulars is something that we know you love.
The book I brought is Julia Phillips's You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again. Julia Phillips might not ring your bell, or rather is certain not to ring your bell.
No.
Julia Phillips is was a movie producer and the first woman to win a Best Picture Oscar.
Oh, wow.
Yes, for The Sting actually, in 1975.
75. Wow. The
and-
first woman.
Yes, and she remained
Great.
the only woman for several decades.
Mm-hmm.
So she won that Oscar for The Sting, but she also produced Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. Honestly. I love it.
Rightfully so. And actually, a large portion of that book is devoted to the making of Close
Mhm.
Encounters of the Third Kind.
Wow.
And interestingly, when I bought that book, I thought it was sort of a gossipy, behind-the-scenes tale about 70s Hollywood, and I'm really a bit, somewhat obsessed with 70s Hollywood.
But it wouldn't be too bad, would it?
That wouldn't be too bad, but actually, my personal description of the book would be the wolf lady of Hollywood, really,
Mhm.
because it is a 70s female perspective Hollywood take on a narrative very similar to The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay, all right.
Because Julia Phillips, she really doesn't take any prisoners with her account of that period in her life. The whole, or the main body of the book is told as a flashback.
Okay.
For some reason, it's framed within a narrative in the then present, which was the late 80s, which is written in the third person for some reason I can't quite grasp. By which point Julia Phillips has completed a complete fall from grace. She had severe drug problems, and I don't mean Betty Ford clinic for a month and then hey ho, I'm back. I'm talking about crack and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So she really saw Hollywood from any angle imaginable. And she shares all of it, and relentlessly so. As I said, she truly didn't take any prisoners, including herself. I mean, no punches are being pulled. It is quite a visceral read and quite unpleasant in certain periods because she's quite ruthless, it must be said, towards herself and towards others. She can also be very, very mean. I mean, people are judged on their looks. People are judged on the basis of the size of their penis, well, men in this case.
Right.
So it's she's as chauvinistic as they come, which probably was necessary to have the kind of career she had, or had for a certain period.
And I mean, it's Hollywood, isn't it?
It is Hollywood, so it is all larger than life.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's on certain occasions it's much more unpleasantry than I was imagining, because I thought, okay, look, it's 70s Hollywood. It's all the great directors, all the great actors, and so on and so forth. And they all do make appearances. There's,
Wow.
She obviously she was quite close, professionally speaking, with Robert Redford and Spielberg and so on and so forth. And there are some fascinating insights, but there is this streak of ruthlessness, which can be explained to a certain extent by her wanting to, just the best for the movie, for the project, and so on and so forth. But there's also ruthlessness, full stop, and a meanness towards herself, towards other people, that makes her a difficult narrator. There is a relentlessness to the entire book, and it has this feverish quality of some of the better accounts of drug abuse.
Sounds intense, I have to say.
It is very intense, and not, as I said, not always in a pleasant way, but it on the plus side, it has this visceral quality. It really is a story told from the heart, and it is a fantastic insight into a different time and into into a person. From my perspective, I'm most certainly am not like at all.
Yeah.
First of all, because of course she's a female, was a female, and because she had this enormous drive that led to this gigantic success, at least for a brief period in time. So one begets the other to a certain extent, and it's quite clear that it took as extreme a character for her to make it as a woman in 70s Hollywood.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not a straightforward tale in the sense of that you really feel for her and that you root for her at all times.
So, Christopher, there's cutlery on the cover.
Yes.
So, I thought it's about food. Where does the food come in?
The food doesn't really. If you consider drugs food of some kind, that does come into play. But truth be told, or rather to be precise, that phrase of "you'll never eat lunch in this town again," it refers to what she calls the worst day in her life, which was the moment when she was kicked off the production of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Okay.
Right towards the end of the production.
Oh wow. Okay.
And her last lunch in town is actually depicted in there. And from that point onwards, it just all goes downhill very fast. So there is this figurative meaning and a literal meaning as well to the title. So
Thank you.
You'll never eat lunch in this town again?
Third book already. And a very, very, very nice one. It's called The Great Mistake, and I think it looks fabulous.
It does indeed.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's by Jonathan Lee, whom I didn't know before this book. He's a Brit. And I read in The Guardian in a review that this is considered the best American novel this year by a British author.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, I thought so myself. It is about a man I haven't heard of before either. His name was Andrew Haswell Green. So Jonathan Lee walked through Central Park one day, like 8-9 years ago, and he came across this bench with a sign on it dedicated to the father of Greater New York, said Andrew Haswell Green. And he thought to himself, wow, I don't know this chap, who was he? And then he started to look into this guy, and he went into archives, and he was allowed to read into unpublished letters by this man, and also Tagebucheinträge.
What, his journals?
Yes, his
His
journals.
diaries.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then he came across the fact that Andrew Haswell Green was murdered, aged 83, in front of his townhouse in Manhattan in 1903. And everyone knew who the murderer was, but the motive was completely unclear. So Jonathan Lee started to, one could say, to investigate. And he really read a lot about this man, and we can read his story now. And it is so fascinating and so interesting. He was born in 1820 in Massachusetts. I think he was the 7th child of 11 or something. And he was always very, very, a very sensitive child. He liked to draw, he liked to read, and he really had a crush on his one and only friend. And once they were lying on the ground, and he tried to kiss his friend, his boyfriend, and they were watched by the mother of this boyfriend. And the mother told Andrew's father, and he was sent away. He was sent away when he was, I don't know, was he 15, to New York for an apprenticeship. And that's when he came to visit New York for the first time. And it was a horrible first few years. He was nearly starving, he had no money. The apprenticeship was really hard. But he made his way. And he really, he dedicated himself to this city, and he kind of became a lawyer and also an architect, and he voted for the first public library. He went into to schools to see how the school system could be improved, and that was, the 1850s then, and he drew out the Central Park, and there's a lovely scene when a lot of men are sitting around a table and everybody is thinking of a name for this park, and one comes up with the Middle Park, and Andrew says, no, that sounds shit, and then at some point he said, no, it's the Central Park. And also MoMA, he made MoMA, and so yeah, he is a real famous man in the US, and I didn't know him, but I'm really, really glad I do now, and it's such an elegant read. It's really an historic read, and this man is just so nice. He's very, very generous, and he's altruistic, and you really fall in love with him.
But Sarah, it is a work of fiction.
It is a work of fiction, yes. It is filled with fiction, where Jonathan Lee couldn't ask the man himself, but it's really meticulously researched.
Right.
Yeah, so also some names were dropped here, some characters, they are real,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, it is fictional, but it's like a fictional biography.
Is it crime?
No, it's not.
Not crime?
No, it's not crime. No, it's not. I know, we also have a copy, I think, in our, with the crime novels, but it's not crime.
No, it's not.
No, it's
okay.
not. It's beautiful. It's elegantly written, as I said. It's really, it's a great book.
Sounds like it. Have you got the German edition?
Oh yes, thank you. And it's also out in German. Diogenes, der große Fehler.
It looks so different in German, doesn't it, with the elephant?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was asking myself, why the elephant?
Even after reading it?
Yeah, but now that I'm asking myself the question, I know why the elephant. But
There
you
you
have to
go.
read it,
Okay.
Yeah, so, all right.
Thank you very much. Last book this evening, or actually, whenever you're watching this. It could be any time, or of the day or night. Last book. I hope you're still around. Maybe too long, this format. We're not sure. We're trying things out.
Yeah, we do.
Tracy Thorne, my rock and roll friend.
Aww.
This book is close to my heart, I have to say. Absolutely love it, which is such a gushy thing to say as a bookseller, but I do. And
it's
maybe
true though.
It is
we
true.
love our books.
Absolutely. And we want to be equal with our love, but we just can't
No.
sometimes. Maybe it's because Tracy Thorne has a place in my heart, and she has done for a long time. Tracy Thorne, part of Everything But the Girl with Ben Watt. It's actually not a novel. It's a work of non-fiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's a memoir or an ode to her friend, Lindy Morrison. Tracy Thorne and Lindy Morrison met in London first in 1983, and Lindy Morrison was already the drummer in the band of the Go-Betweens. They were trying to become well known in London. They had a fair amount of fame in Brisbane in Australia, but they hadn't made it big in the UK yet. That's not the main thing about this book though. What is so fascinating about this book is the persona of Lindy Morrison, who was, I don't know, it sounds odd to say way before her time, because no, she was absolutely right in her time. But the 80s were a very sexist decade, and I think the music industry certainly was. There's a scene where they go past page 3 girls' posters at the record company. You'd like to say it's a completely different time, but in many ways it isn't. And it's a feminist read, I have to say, and I love that aspect about the book. Lindy Morrison speaks her mind. She is never shy to offer her opinion. She's loud. There's a part in the book where everyone says, oh, she was a force of nature. And Tracy Thorne wonders whether women who speak their mind are always called a force of nature, because women who speak their mind take space. Women who are loud take up a space which maybe isn't allocated for them. And I think that's worth thinking about today, too.
I have to think of Julia Phillips again also.
That's it.
Yeah.
And this friendship that they strike up, although Lindy Morrison is 9 or 10 years older than Tracy, and they're both in the music industry, and their paths go apart. It's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful insight into the music industry, but more than that, it's about being an artist, being a woman artist. It's about being a drummer, a woman drummer. And I was talking to a colleague of mine, and she said Harry Styles has a woman drummer. So yeah, you know, and this is the early 80s that we're talking about here. It's a story about a friendship. It'll make you want to check out on YouTube, certainly Lindy Morrison and the Go-Betweens. It made me want to have a look at them, and I did. It might, and I hope, make you want to listen to your old Everything But the Girl records, or cassettes, or CDs, or whatever you've got. And it sort of starts with an introduction of Tracy Thorne writing a letter to Lindy and saying, look, this is what I've made of it. This is what I've made of your memories. This is what I've made of my memories. And I hope you're okay with what I've written. And then it goes on to an interview that was actually held in 1988. And she depicts and dissects this interview so well. And I did look at it on YouTube because I was interested to see, you know, how did that interview actually pan out? And yeah, I was fascinated. I am fascinated by this book, and there's so much in it. There's so much in this book because Tracy Thorne, as we know, can write music, but she's a writer. She's an artist. She's a writer. She is an advocate for women, and I loved it. I absolutely loved this book.
Wow.
My Rock and Roll Friend by Tracy Thorne. And yeah, love to Lindy Morrison and Tracy Thorne because they both rock, honestly.
Wow, yeah.
I'm getting overexcited.
Sounds really great. And
I enjoyed it.
That's what I wanted to say. It really sounds as if she also is a great writer, Tracy Thorne. Thank you for bearing with us.
If you have.
If you have. Of course you have. And yeah, see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.